Let the beauty we love be what we do. There are hundreds of ways to kneel and kiss the ground. Tilda Rumi, isn't this a miracle? I asked myself in the milk aisle at Whole Foods. It was a Wednesday night after work, and I was buying a few staples to get us through the week. It was a completely ordinary moment in a completely ordinary day, and it was miraculous. Rewind a few years, same Whole Foods, same shopping list, and you'd find me absent-mindedly wandering the aisles, lost in a head of worries. I couldn't tell you now what I was worried about then. The house, the kids, money, probably. My body would be tense, with a hint of tears right behind my eyes. Isn't this supposed to be a miracle? I might have asked if I had the words to describe that feeling. For as long as I can remember, I wanted to be one of those interesting people who did interesting things like paint murals or write books. I wanted to see every continent and learn as many languages as my brain could hold. I wanted to feel excited by my life. As a child, I had no doubt that this is what growing up would be like. But for just as long as I can remember, I also lived under the assumption that I had something to prove. My intelligence, my worth, my place in this world. Somehow, these two ideas became intertwined. That part of me that felt so certain that her life would be extraordinary started to have doubts. Could I really pull it off? Had I really earned it? Was I being completely delusional? Over time, that vision of an extraordinary life felt like a silly childhood dream, and I stopped myself from following it. I worked hard and earned a good reputation, but that excitement, that fulfillment was always just out of my reach. I would let it go saying, it'll come later, but as I checked off the boxes of life's to-do list, degree, job, marriage, kids, I wasn't feeling anything like I thought I would. The feeling that something was off fueled a restlessness that I mistook for motivation. I poured myself into school and then work, but not necessarily out of excitement. I think a part of me still believed that if you weren't happy, you just weren't working hard enough at it. What confused me about it all was that my life was good. I had a beautiful, growing family, a stable job, and a safe, comfortable house. I mean, I was buying organic milk to pour on my cereal. That's a privilege. So, if nothing was wrong, why didn't it feel right? I'd scold myself for not being more grateful, but I couldn't shake the feeling that I didn't feel the way I wanted. Then, one ordinary day, while squeezing in another email during my lunch hour, a little thought snapped me out of it. You're missing the point, Leslie. Time stopped just long enough for me to notice my racing heart. Maybe you've had these epiphanies, where you're amazed by your own wisdom and you feel so incredibly clear and awake. Maybe it was during a life-changing event, or maybe, like me, it was during an everyday moment, like buying toothpaste or feeding the cats. The immediate effect wasn't anything extreme. There was no out-of-body experience, no inexplicable knowledge of the universe. Just an ordinary little thought that led to another ordinary little thought. What if living an extraordinary life isn't about the details? Every now and then, I'd pull out a list I made that day and add a thought or two to it. The point is, overflowing, seeing more magic, doing what you love, being happy, being present, feeling bright, brave, and brilliant, waking up and appreciating the mountains. My children knowing how much they are loved. Grady receiving everything I have. Letting myself unfold. Alignment, not approval. Trusting the wisdom of my own heart. 100% up to me. And in a gradual, ordinary kind of way, I figured it out. That feeling I wanted wasn't an outcome. It wasn't something that would happen when. It wasn't in the details at all. It's your feelings, moment to moment, that make your life extraordinary. There is no committee keeping score and waiting to grant permission to begin. There's just us, the people we care about, our corner of the world, and those little moments. And we have a choice in what we do with them. That feeling that something was wrong wasn't about my reputation or my checklist. It was about my awareness of the miracles right in front of me and my willingness to take conscious, meaningful steps that felt extraordinary to take. Since that day, my life has changed dramatically. We live in the same house, we shop at the same store, I have the same job, but now, I'm also one of those people who is curious about everything. Who loses themselves in creative projects just because. Who creates art, writes poetry, and self-publishes books. I've become one of those people who sees even the most ordinary moment at Whole Foods on a Wednesday afternoon as extraordinary. How did I do it? I simply let myself begin right where I was. You may have a completely different version of extraordinary, and that's what's so perfect. How to live an extraordinary life entirely up to you, it's your life, after all. The action itself isn't as important as the intent behind it. As long as your intent is to make something in your world just a little better, to learn something just a little deeper, to try something you're just a little curious about, it's foolproof. You could institute pizza Saturdays or travel the world, saving endangered species. Both are extraordinary. If you're not sure where to begin, here are a few things to try. They changed the world for me. 1. Be tenacious in your appreciation and optimism. First, slow down and look around. Then, appreciate anything and everything you possibly can. Thank the sun, thank the water, thank the air you breathe. Look out for the funny thing that happened on your way to work, beautiful sunsets, and acts of human kindness. Even when everyone around you wants to complain about the boss, be the one who notices that it's such a nice day. When I talked about my day, I used to begin with something that went wrong. Then, I gave myself one tiny challenge: lead with a gratitude. I made a point of starting conversations with something positive as often as I could, which meant I had to start looking for those positive things and remembering to bring them up. I discovered so much beauty around me with this one simple switch. 2. Define your extraordinary. What do you want to see in this lifetime? What do you want to learn? How do you want to feel while you're living your life? I'd thought about these things before, of course, but they would quickly get taken over by something more serious. I didn't want to waste time. My attitude changed when I decided that feeling curious, engaged, and alive was more important than being productive. I began setting intentions for the week. I'd write down an idea that excited me, a feeling I wanted to nurture, and something I wanted to learn or create. Then, I gave myself small, meaningful challenges that fit with those intentions. Carrying a composition book with me quickly led to filling that composition book, and then another and another. 3. Make friends with your body. Your body was made for living, so live in it. Use it in a life-affirming way. Don't just feed it, nourish it. Let it move, let it sweat, let it pump its blood, laugh, cry, and feel. Stretch into it and savor its senses. Rest it when it's tired, heal it when it's hurting, love it even when you want to change it, and thank it. And when it has something to tell you, lean in and really listen. I used to treat my body like it had no purpose. I didn't nourish it, I overworked its muscles, and I constantly tried to remodel it. It wasn't until I started paying attention to how I feel now that I asked myself, is this how you would treat a child or an animal in your care? My answer was an emphatic no. 4. Lose yourself in curiosity and creativity. Follow the fun and let yourself overflow. Take on a ridiculous project just because it lights you up, even if it's silly, you're too old, or it's wasting time. Let it be messy. Let it change directions. And let it fail spectacularly. The outcome isn't as important as the process of it. I practice this by painting with my children. They are experts at following curiosity and creativity. While I'm painstakingly sketching a dog or a flower, they're creating imaginary animals in underwater kingdoms and then covering the entire thing in handprints when the inspiration strikes. Every time, I shake my head with a smile. This is supposed to be fun, remember? 5. Be of service in a way that's meaningful to you. Share something. Create something. Teach something. Go where you are masterful and add value to the world in any way that's accessible to you. Feed the hummingbirds, pick up litter, volunteer in your community. Big or small, it doesn't matter, it's the meaning behind it that makes